Okay, so I just finished this show called Mr. Queen, and I need to talk about it because it's so good and so worth the hype. It's been out since 2020, so I had seen people talk about it for a long time and always hyping it up. Oh, it's so good, it's so good. I never committed to it. I never watched it. I saw clips of it, but I never watched the whole show. So I finally decided to watch it, and holy cow, I'm sure glad I did because it's so good. It follows this. Okay, track with me. It's a little bit of a weird plot. It follows this chef, this guy who ends up time traveling back in time, and he ends up in the body of a queen. Okay, stay with me. Stay with me. So he falls into this pool after being chased because of his job, whatever. That's not that important, and honestly, it doesn't even end up really playing that big of a part into the plot until like literally the last episode. But anyways, he got accused of something. I think he ended up getting fired from his job, and then the police were after him, so he's running away. He falls into this pool. He wakes up though, and he's like, "Oh, where am I? Like, what's going on?" He looks around, and he's like, he can't figure out what's like where he is. He's like, "Why am I in like an old, like historical like room? Like, what's going on?" Looks in the mirror, and a woman's looking back at him. Oh boy. So basically, here's what happened. And this is obviously explained. There's 20 episodes, so this is explained throughout the show. But what ended up happening was when he fell in the water in the that time, in the historical time, that queen, her name's Soyoung. So Soyoung, at the same time that he fell in the water in modern times, 200 years later, she jumped in the water, and basically they kind of explain it, but also not. Basically, they had like a soul transfer essentially. So his soul went into her body. And then her soul, we don't know where it goes until later in the plot. You realize technically it's still there, but it's like dormant or it's not. They never really explain that. I'm going to point that out. They never actually explain what happened to the, like, we don't really know where the queen was for most of the plot because she doesn't appear, if you will, back in her body until like episode like 9. So almost halfway through the show when she pops back in, and I'll explain why she pops back in and try to explain that situation. But anyways, wakes up in the body of a queen, and he is supposed to get married to the king. Like that's like his, like that's what the queen was about to do. It was like the wedding was the next day. So he ends up married to this king. From the get-go, the king and him obviously don't get along, but that's partly just because the king disdained the queen for some kind of unknown reason. They didn't get along. They didn't have a relationship. There was no love lost between the king and the queen even before they got married, because the king has this, I mean, a concubine, that's what she is. She ends up becoming a concubine or whatever, his second wife, I guess, if you will, that he's in love with. And that's like a big part of the plot, is that she plays a pretty big part in the plot until pretty late into the last couple episodes. But basically, long story short, the king and the queen end up falling in love. And let me tell you, it is silly. It's so funny because a lot of people, there's a lot of talk of this show because it's like, is it basically a BL? Is it basically gay? Like, is it kind of gay, but like not really, because neither of the king is kind of blissfully unaware. You can kind of just leave him as like, he's not gay in this grand situation because he just thinks that the woman that's in front of him is his wife, and she's just a little quirky. Because obviously the way that she acts is because there's a man in her body. Like, that sounds weird, but like his soul is like why she acts the way she does. So it's like, it's hard. It's a little, I know that doesn't maybe make total sense, but when you watch the show, it makes sense. It's not that confusing, but it's just really funny. It's really funny to watch a female actress act like a man, but also still try to act like a queen at times, because he, down the line, the chef, Bong Hyun is his name, Hwan or something, he like tries to act more like queenly. It's so funny. It's such a well-made plot, and the relationship that develops between the king and the queen is it's kind of slow, like obviously partly because it's a guy, they're both men. If you really think about it, like, yeah, he's in the body of a woman, but it's his soul as a man. So it's like, by the end of the plot, the conclusion I came to, in my opinion, was that low key, the chef guy he had some affection for the king. You can't say that he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was in love with him, but he had something. He had some kind of connection with that king. You couldn't live that long in the body of someone who loved the king without starting to love him a little bit too. I don't know. You can debate it all you want. If you ever watch the show, you can form your own opinion because honestly, it's hard to explain. That was my perspective though. That's kind of what I took from it. Another thing though that I wanted to talk about is so in episode 9, because like a big part of the plot is that the king is he's kind of trying to overthrow all the corrupt officials that are there. So he's like undercover, right? So he's like looking for the secret ledger. That's like a big part of the plot. He's looking for the secret ledger that has the names of just like corruption or something, like the one family, because there's like two families in the show too. There's like the Joe family and then there's the Kim family, and he's basically trying to prove that there was a bunch of corruption amongst the Kim family, like that they were like stealing money or something. I don't know, something like that. So he's trying to find this ledger, and he ends up near the queen. Why were they together? I don't remember. They were together for some reason. They were like in the same area, and she was drunk. He, she, whatever you want to say. I'm just going to say she for the heck of it because for almost the entire plot, it's the chef soul in the queen's body. So I'm just going to say she because it's easier. Anyways, so she's there, whatever, drunk. And the king is about to get discovered by, some people or whatever, the like, I don't know what to call them. Soldiers, I don't know, whoever they are. So he kisses the queen. Okay, so this is their first kiss. They have not kissed before. And she's super stiff. Like, she's not moving. She's just kind of sitting there like, huh? Like, what's going on? And then, suddenly the kiss changes. And she starts to kiss him back. And then they have a very long kissing scene that goes on for quite a while. But at the end of it, her eyes open. While they're still kissing, her eyes open. And she, like, pulls away from him. And she literally slaps herself and he's like, snap out of it, lady. And you're like, oh. So the theory is that basically at that point, you can kind of see when the queen, because that's like the description of the plot is like the queen tries to find her way back to her body, tries to like regain control of the body. So you can kind of use that as that's their explanation of like the queen took over the body, the shared body, if you will, and then the queen was the one that was kissing the king, not the chef. And it's like, we're riding a fine line here, because, I mean, whatever. That's kind of the way they explain that scene. But I feel like it does kind of make sense, because in the initial kiss, the queen is not doing anything, but then suddenly, like, something changes, and she starts kissing the king back, and you can see that it was their first kiss that they'd ever kissed before, and you can even see that it's like, no, that's the king and the queen kissing. That's not the chef. Because when I had seen the clip before, I kind of thought, oh, he's just putting on airs, like he's playing the part, if you will, but I don't think so. I think that was the queen. I think that was the whole, what it was supposed to be. So there's that scene, right? And then there's another scene where they do sleep together. And listen, the scene itself is like very fast. There's like almost, there's nothing. It's not obscene in any context. You don't see anything. But we know that they slept together because of what happens the next day, because it's so complicated, because the chef realized, because, okay, what had happened is he thought he was kissing someone else. He thought he was kissing a woman, and it wasn't. It was the king. And so then he slept with the king, and then, like, realized the next day and was like, wait, but I liked it. And so it's like this whole conflict. He's like basically having an identity crisis, because at this point, this is also an important thing. In the beginning of the show, I'm sorry, I keep jumping around, but in the beginning of the show, when the chef would think, it was in his own thoughts, because we see the chef, the actor that plays the chef, is in the show for like a little bit, and he provides a lot of the like internal thought process of the queen or whatever, so that we know that obviously it's him, the chef. But at a certain point, the feedback starts to just be the voice of the queen, like what the actress herself sounds like. So then it starts to be like, because there's a point when he wakes up and he's like, where did my voice go? What's going on? Like, I'm not thinking in my voice anymore. I'm thinking in her voice. So it's kind of the whole idea that like at a certain point, their identities get so smushed and crushed together that I feel like that's why I was saying kind of I feel like you can't say that he didn't have feelings for the queen. I kind of am like at that point I feel like that scene is so up in the air. You can take it's your own way to interpret it because you can interpret it either way. You can interpret it that it was the chef, you can interpret it that it was the queen, you can interpret it was a little bit of both. I don't know, because in a certain context the chef thought he was kissing a woman when he was kissing the king. But it was also the queen, and at that point the queen was probably also in control. So it's like I don't know. But the reason I mentioned that scene is because the queen gets pregnant. So that's why we know something actually happened. It wasn't just like, oh no, we just like kissed a bunch. It's like, no. Other stuff happened because she gets pregnant, and that's like a big part of the plot. It's actually very funny too, because when the chef realizes he's pregnant in this woman's body, his like literal like losing his mind is it was actually like really funny. But yeah, and then there is one scene, this is the other scene that I'll talk about, where I was like, I think the lines got really blurred. There's a scene when they're about to do their whole rebellion, and it's this big moment, and it's this big scene, and they're like on their way, and she stops him, the queen does, and she kisses him, and he's like, what was that for? And she's like, I don't really know. And then he kisses her back, and it's really cute. It's just like a really cute scene, but I was like, you can't tell me that was all the queen, because that was the chef, the way that like she was talking, that was the chef. I don't know. I'll leave that one up to the audience, but in my mind I was like, you can't tell me there wasn't a little bit of affection between them. You can't tell me he didn't have a little bit of some kind of emotion towards the king at that point, because like that kiss was not necessary. So I'm listening. I'm not judging, I'm just here. Anyways, such a good show. Such a good show. So funny, romantic, emotional. There was a couple scenes like when the queen thinks at one point, because at one point in the plot they think the king is dead, and literally the actress, love her so much. She is so good. I've seen her in a couple different shows and she slays every time. She's such a good actress. I love women that can act. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite thing. Anyways, there's a scene where she's just like sobbing, and I'm just like, it's like so sad. So good though. Also the actor that plays the king. Okay, let's also talk about this. There was this whole thing. So right after this show, I think it was like within a year or two after, he was going to be in this other show. But then there was a bunch of drama that came about because he was struggling. I think he had like some mental health stuff. I think he was like depression and anxiety and different stuff like that. And so he was like dealing with all of that. And then he also, now, don't take my word for it, but it's weird because I remember hearing about this back a couple years ago, but I hadn't really gotten into too many dramas at that point, I don't think. So I don't think I was really even watching K-dramas consistently. But he was dating this other actress in the industry who is an insanely good actress. Maybe not the nicest person though, because apparently they were in like abusive relationship, like I think it was like emotionally or verbally abusive or something. It was not a good relationship. It was to the point where like he, during filming with this other show, like in this other show with this other female lead, he would like wouldn't like if I think there was like allegedly when he held her hand or something for a scene, he like really aggressively washed his hands afterwards. There is video footage of them being on the press, and oftentimes in press tours for their shows, they link arms, or the woman holds the man's arm, or there's some kind of physical contact in some context when they're standing there, but he's like standing away from her. He's like, it's like really awkward and weird. And then I think he walked off the stage or whatever. So anyways, allegedly all of this was going on in his personal life, and he dips and leaves the show, and they had to like scramble to figure out what to do, because he left in like, I think there was like 16 episodes or something. He left like, it was a couple episodes in, I think. So it was like very, very inconvenient, very bad, whatever. And it just so happened also that the actress that was playing his love interest in the show is also an idol. So adding an idol fan base on top of the normal base, everyone obviously sees her as a victim. Obviously, none of this is her fault. I'm sure that hurt her feelings to see someone be pretty much utterly disgusted by her. Not that it was her fault or that it was even her he was probably disgusted by. He was having a lot of issues. And he also made the lives of all these people making a show really difficult because he just dipped. But I noticed that there seemed to be a lot less sympathy for him. And I was like, guys, have you guys ever like dealt with depression or anxiety and then also on top of that had an abusive ex? I don't really think it's crazy, or I guess girlfriend at that time. Obviously they're broken up now, but I don't think it's really crazy to just like be maybe a little bit out of it. I'm not saying what he did was okay, but like, so anyways, all of that to say, this show was right before I think all of that happened. So watching him, I felt like a little bit of like, I feel kind of bad for him because like I know that what ends up coming after this show is like he went through a bunch, but he was in a show recently, and I like to think that he got his reputation back a little bit. Also I need to say this is ridiculous, the way that people would judge him for doing those things that he did, which were not great things, but not like criminal, and then the way that they would not judge an actual criminal is crazy. The hypocrisy is insane. It doesn't make sense. The Korean justice system, the just the way that they'll cancel one person but welcome another person back with open arms who committed actual crimes, but then lay in on an actor who was a dick. Like, it. Oops, I hit my cup. It's really. Ooh, it makes me so mad because it's so hypocritical, and it's crazy how it's just like casually like, oh yeah, this person did actual crimes. Oh, he was rude to his female co-star one time, so like he should never work in dramas again. He should never be an girl. Anyways, we're not even gonna get into that because I could go for hours on the hypocrisy of the Korean media and the fans and the industry and how it works, and also what is these fingers? What am I doing? It's so weird. Anyways, all of that to say, seeing this guy in the show made me a little sad, but also like I'm just glad he's getting work again. Because I feel like all of that was probably a little bit unnecessary. Also, the actress that was his ex too. What about her? Because I know she was in like a show or two, but she hasn't really made like an official comeback. I feel like he did kind of. So I'm curious where she is at. Because I mean, if it's revealed that all of that was true and that she was low-key abusive, it's like, ooh, that doesn't look very good for you either, Queen. Which is unfortunate because she is quite literally she's a top tier actress. She is such a good actress in the industry. So I'm kind of like, ooh, that's unfortunate. Anyways, show is great. Worth a watch. Has some really annoying characters like, holy cow, shut up. But, it's okay. You just have to like deal with it. And also, this is the last thing I'll say. So there's an actress from Business Proposal. She's in the show. The second female lead, the like best friend in Business Proposal. That is the only show I've liked her in. Every other show she's been in that I've seen, I have not liked her. She was okay in this one show, but genuinely that show was so mid, and it made me so mad for different reasons because it was so stupid. She wasn't that bad in that one, but I watched her in Twinkling Watermelon, and this one in Mr. Queen. I feel like I'd seen her in maybe one other thing. Maybe it was just those 2 or 3 things. But anyways, she was so freaking annoying in those shows. And I'm like, I don't know what it is about this actress because I'm low-key, I have to remind myself that it's just a character because I can't stand her. She's so annoying and she's so good at playing annoying characters. And I know for a fact that it's not the actress. Like, it's just the characters that she's playing. But she just somehow gets these characters that just make my blood boil because I couldn't stand her in Twinkling Watermelon because she was so selfish and her whole reason to going back in time was literally the most selfish thing you could think of. And she was just annoying. I just didn't like her. Like, I didn't like the banter between her and the male lead. I was like, this isn't cute to me. I don't like this. It's not funny. And in this show, in Mr. Queen, she was like quite literally so pretentious and so annoying, even though I know why she was like that. But I was also like, girl, you lied about some really important things and you did some really bad things, and I'm just supposed to sit here and be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Eventually, though, she does get a little redemption arc, and then she was better. But that wasn't until almost the last couple of episodes, and there's 20 episodes, so it took a long time. Also, that's another thing. There was 20 episodes. Dude, I finished this show so fast because the first couple episodes are like an hour and 20 minutes, or hour 15. They're really long. But then once it gets to like episode, I want to say maybe like 5 or 6, I think, or maybe a little earlier, they get way shorter. So then it's a lot easier to digest the episode. You're not watching an hour and 20 minutes. You're watching an hour and 4 minutes, an hour and 2 minutes. So it's like easier, which I'm glad that they didn't make them all that long because I was like, this is getting crazy. Also, my other thing, if you watch the show, keep in mind, you just got to get through the first like 2 episodes, 2 to 3 episodes, because it is a little boring, especially when the king is like being really goofy and silly and you're kind of like, ugh, he's like not that great. He gets so much better. It's all a facade, okay? It's all a facade. It's so good. I think it would sit up in one of my top favorite dramas. Like it genuinely is so it's so good. It's so worth it. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. 20 minutes, baby. I'm just glad I have a good show to talk about. I feel like I've had so many bad ones. Also, on the vein of the chemistry was incredible in this show, it makes my irritation with Love Your Enemy so much higher because it's so bad. I watched the most recent episode. I skipped through it because I'm done. Oh, I'm doing that with my hands again. I'm done trying to watch it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. The thing is, though, it's the way that I read a comment that was so good that someone was just like, the female lead is just not it. It's not good. I don't know why it's bad. I don't know why her character is so uninteresting. I don't know why they directed her to act like this. Oh, I've seen a lot of people saying she's acting a lot like a 2010s K-drama character, which in that like female lead is not a what's the word, compliment, because apparently that was, I haven't watched a lot of dramas from 2010s really, but that must be, it's apparently a popular, I almost said stereotype, a archetype, is that the right word? I think that was the word the person used, but like apparently that's like a common thing, is the female lead's really annoying. And yeah, she's really annoying. I don't like her. They haven't made her likable. And let me say this, because this person left a comment about it, and this is what I think sums up why it doesn't work. Is they said the male lead has been given like flashbacks to it showing us, or moments where it shows us that he still cares as much as he did back then, and that he's still hurt and he still loves her. Whereas the female lead, compared to her past version, is like a shell of her former self. She's not interesting. She's boring. She's selfish. She makes the same weird, like irritated faces, and it's like not. It doesn't make sense, and she also doesn't seem to care about him at all. And there was even this scene where like he had found old pictures she had kept of like them together, and even that I was like, girl, even that can't squeeze a little bit of emotion out of her, because she still just seems constantly irritated by him, and it doesn't seem like there's any part of her that cares about him at all. There's no depth of her character, there's no emotion. It's just like her being annoyed at him all the time, and it's like, why am I watching this? Like, why do I care? Why do I want to watch you huff and puff about how annoying he is, when in reality we know he's not that annoying, and also we know that you're supposedly supposed to still have feelings for him. But when I'm watching this, I don't see it at all. At all. I see nothing. So it's like it's impossible to watch and be like, yeah, she has feelings for him. I'm like, no, she doesn't. It doesn't seem like it at all. And it's not just like, oh, it's just still developing. It's like, girl, it's like episode 7 and 8 next week. Like, we're still, and there's only 12 episodes. We're still in this. I think she hates him. Because even on his end, we're seeing that he still has feelings, and he still misses her, and he still wants her. But her, she's just like, all the time. And I'm like, I don't like it. Oh, it just, okay, I have to stop now because it ticking me off. Anyways, okay, that's all I have to say. Okay, bye.